Hello, this is Darrell Castle with today's Castle Report. This is Friday, the 31st day of May in the year of our Lord 2024. I will be talking about the state of our society and the politics that drive and govern it. I'll argue that politics and demonic Hollywood are moving ever closer to one and the same. Politicians are worried right now because they can't seem to figure out why more of the American people are becoming wise to their game of weaponization of the law and have stopped believing their propaganda. Please bear in mind, folks, that this report was prepared before the verdict in the Stalinist Show Trial against Donald Trump came in, so I will have to discuss that at a later date. The reason I chose the title Asleep at Arlington was in reference to the president visibly falling asleep on the podium while the Secretary of Defense was speaking at the annual memorial ceremony in Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day. There are many things the president could have told the nation during that moment, but he chose to make it about himself, as usual. Donald Trump is often accused of making every speech about himself, and I guess that criticism is valid, but when Trump talks about himself, he normally tells stories that he believes to be true, unlike the president. I've never heard Mr. Trump tell how his son was killed in Iraq when he wasn't, but that is the same story President Biden tells each time he speaks to veterans, their families, or to the nation in general about the military, as he did this week at Arlington. What could he have said instead? But I understand he gets a pass to some degree because he obviously has dementia. I can't remember which story he told the last time. I thought the president had a staff of speechwriters to handle such things, but I guess he has trouble staying on script. He could have said, for example, that next week, the 6th of June, is the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings on the coast of France. He could have said during this Memorial Day service that hundreds of thousands of young men were sent to the beaches to liberate Europe and to save civilization from Nazism, and that tens of thousands of them died that day. It was a good opportunity to remember them, for as General Eisenhower said, we may never see their like again. He was speaking at Arlington National Cemetery, so he could have used the memorial ceremony to mention that he, as Commander-in-Chief, is aware that the suicide rate among active-duty military is 2.5 times the national average. Why is that? That would be a good question. Why is that? What can we do about it? That would be the answer. Does that figure say anything about foreign policy and how it is being conducted today? He and his friends in the media, especially in Hollywood, have other things to worry about than military personnel taking their own lives. He must think about re-election at a time when it's hard to think about anything. A nagging, persistent question he must be struggling with is why have my personally orchestrated lawfare attacks against Donald Trump not turned the American people against him? Maybe they're not as stupid and naive as I assumed they were. The concern about the chances that Biden could lose the election is growing ever closer to panic, as is reflected in the growing number of media stories advising the president on how to conduct his campaign. Is advising the president a media responsibility? No, folks, it isn't. But it's just something they are expected to do for Democrats. He is advised from time to time to show some empathy on the economy. The media tells him, show some empathy on the economy. The media can at least sense that people are sick and tired of hearing how great Bidenomics is when they must pay 10% more for food this year than last year. Very few people can enjoy a 10% raise in pay each year, so the real effect that they're losing their standard of living more and more each year. If the president could just show some concern, even if he feels nothing for normal people, if he could just pretend he does, it might help him defeat the hated orange man, the new republic. Ask its readers the question, quote, how the hell can people be nostalgic for Donald Trump, yet they are, end quote. Well, maybe I could help explain that millions of illegal immigrants swarming across the border, wages shrinking, not rising, war in at least 2 places, a third war looking ever more likely. I suppose people somehow, some way just don't like the idea of their children being mustered to fight a stupid empire-building war against a nuclear-armed country. All those things may be factors, but you know the average American, so go figure, folks. Fear is palpable now. It appears to be eating into the Democrat base. Minorities and the young are starting to reject the propaganda of always vote Democrat. Don't think about it, just do it. Maybe even the young white liberals are tired of being told, we will fulfill all your pet projects if you elect us, like climate change, other regulations that restrict business, cost jobs, cause inflation, no savings, unable to live without accumulating unpayable debt, maxed out credit cards, no end in sight to deficit spending. I mean, who wouldn't want that? In response to what they see is the president falling asleep at Arlington. Meanwhile, Trump's dominance in the polls continues, and the Democrats can't seem to understand it. Can a billionaire be an underdog in America? Yes, it appears that a billionaire can be an underdog in America if he is being constantly persecuted unjustly by Democrats solely for political reasons. The more the Democrats accuse Donald Trump of being a threat to democracy, the more contempt they show for the will of the people. Even people who always vote Democrat can see it. Trump's trial for his accused non-crime is concluding in the once great city of New York, but the real prosecution of Donald Trump is being conducted by Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. Even Democrats are starting to see it. They are concerned, though, so concerned they decided to engage in a little blatant jury tampering for a possible future jury pool. The total corruption of the system of law and justice is on display because there is no one to rein in their open cheating to convict Donald Trump. They're so blinded by hatred of Trump that nothing matters to them anymore. The integrity of the system doesn't matter at all, it seems. Why can't we hurt Trump's poll numbers with bogus charges, cheating in the trial? Maybe it's because the public can see right through it. They believe the charges are politically motivated, so they prefer him to Biden. For jury tampering purposes and as a demonstration of total panic, the Biden administration brought out demonic actor Robert De Niro to speak from the steps of the courthouse and demonstrate that he really is washed up and delusional. His once immense talent now completely gone. He must find it hard to live without millions of adoring fans. The delusional part of his personality seems to be that in his mind, he's still in the role of Travis from Taxi Driver. Listening to him speak, I expected to hear him say, "Are you talking to me?" But instead, he said something far worse. Thus, my demonic accusation. I quote old Travis De Niro, quote, "I don't mean to scare you." No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted, end quote. So, is he delusional or just a blatant liar or both? Does he think he's living in a movie script? Because if he does, he's likely insane. Just wait, folks, because it gets worse. Quote, "And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave." What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, "I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life," end quote? Well, Travis, listen, Trump has been in office before, and I don't remember him refusing to leave the White House. Oh, I get it now. I understand now. You're probably referring to his having the audacity to question Democrat cheating and ballot box stuffing and tens of thousands of ballots mysteriously appearing days later, but only in important states. I guess you're upset that he refused to simply remain silent in the face of such obvious fraud. Travis isn't through, though, unfortunately, folks, so just listen to this, quote, "I hope this new ad campaign reaches outside the bubble to remind supporters of what a danger he is to our lives. This is not a threat, this is reality, and that's why I joined the Biden-Harris campaign, because the only way to preserve our freedoms and hold on to our humanity is to vote for Joe Biden for president. We don't have a choice," end quote. Travis persevered in his delusional attack despite car horns and jeers from locals, so I will give him that. He comes across as a nut job, and Biden comes across as a panic-stricken, pathetic loser for trotting out this washed-up actor. Biden has to this point pretended to be disconnected from the show trial, even when it was obvious he was very involved. So this performance by the once talented Travis De Niro is evidence of total panic. In the meantime, Donald Trump held a rally up in the Bronx the other day. He had a different message for New Yorkers. Quote, "No matter where you went on this planet, everyone knew that. When you said, 'I'm a New Yorker,' it meant you had smarts, you had grit, you had energy. Above all else, you had heart, big, beautiful heart. Everybody wanted to be here. New York was where you came to make it big. You want to make it big, you had to be in New York. But sadly, this is now a city in decline. All my life, I've seen New York through good times and bad, through boom times and crime waves, through market crashes and terrorist attacks, but I've never seen it quite like this. We have filthy encampments of drugged-out homeless people living in our places that we've spent so much time with children where they used to play. We have lunatics killing innocent bystanders by pushing them onto subway tracks," end quote. It all serves to make me wonder what happened to America, folks. I don't expect an actor like De Niro to suddenly turn into Thomas Jefferson or James Madison, because his job is interpretation. His craft requires he interpret America, and in that task he fails miserably. What has happened to America? Where did it go? It seems to have been made over in the image of some low-talent, fake humor Democrat politician, overflowing with crudeness and vulgarity. Hardly anyone can express a thought, even the Vice President of the United States, without using the F word as emphasis. I offer an opinion here in this Castle report as to what has happened to us and why America we once knew and once loved has disappeared. In its place, we're offered only a crude, vulgar version of a Hollywood that once interpreted our virtues rather than our vices. Somehow, tremendous political power has shifted from the people to the hands of a self-serving class of ideological incompetence. Throughout history, fighting costly wars on the other side of the planet, plunging the nation into unpayable debt, has been a recipe for disaster, not progress. Now, between inflation, wage stagnation, massive debt necessary for people to just live every day, generations of Americans have missed out on upward mobility and prosperity that the generation that survived World War II enjoyed. Government lifers, both elected and unelected bureaucrats, run the show from their offices, buried deep within the woodwork that is Washington, D.C. Who thought it was a good idea to start a proxy war against a nuclear-armed Russia? Who decided it was a good idea to open the southern border to anyone in the world who wanted to cross? Do we have any of these questions on the ballot? Not so we can recognize them through the maze of propaganda which constantly bombards us. Finally, folks, can we vote our way out of this? I would never advise you not to vote, but I wish you good luck when they count the ballots. At least that's the way I see it. Till next time, folks, this is Darrell Castle. Thanks for listening.